Stop messing around, stop fooling around, stop delaying, stop procrastinating. Get up, get out, get it done. Everything is possible, nothing is a problem, and anything can be overcome. I just get my ass up out of bed, I get my shit together, and I get out and I start the fight. And that will transform you from a mere mortal into a superhuman being. I've never, ever, ever met anybody who told me that they got rich watching their IRA or their 401k.
How the hell are you, Peter?
George, I'm better this week, thank you. I appreciate your concern.
I'm glad.
You know.
You're just on a trip this whole week, right? You're doing a lot of business.
Well, I was down in Florida. I had some business down in Florida for 4 days, so I was away. I did do some traveling. But last week, when you and I met, we had a bit of an unsuccessful attempt at shooting our podcast because my panties were all in a huff and we couldn't get things working properly. Or I couldn't get things working. You could, but I couldn't. Now, with your,
I take responsibility. Yeah.
Well, with your assistance, I've now got it going now. So I'm better this week than last week.
Excellent. We're hearing all the time about office values plummeting, work from home infringing on that. I think the Post just posted something about New York City's commercial real estate values are $9 billion short of the most recent high, which I guess isn't surprising because last year was what it was. But city budgets are feeling the squeeze. And I wanted to ask, what do you think? Where do you think these cities are going to look for to solve that problem?
So great question. Cities are definitely feeling the squeeze in their budgets because property taxes from real estate are the single largest source of revenue for any city anywhere. In New York City, it's like 70%, right, of the city's budget comes from property taxes. So as values go up, the cities enjoy increased assessments and increased revenue from the increased values. Conversely, what we're seeing now is when values go down and there's a squeeze on property values, in particular office buildings in New York City.
Yeah.
Values go down, assessments go down. The city's revenue is tied very directly to the value of the property in the city. If the property values go down, so does the city's revenue. It's a big problem. What are they going to do about it? Here's what they're going to do about it. They're going to look to everybody else, every other category of property owner. They're going to look to the multifamily people. They're going to look to the single family home people. They're going to look to the warehouse people and say, hey, your assessments are going way up because the office assessments came way down. It's called balancing the budget. You want to know how they get the phrase balance in the balancing the budget phrase? That's how. You have to balance any shortfalls with increasing revenue from other places. So that's one way they're going to do it. They're going to whack all the other property owners with more tax, more tax, more tax. They're going to whack all of the residents with more tax, more tax, more tax. Generally, they're just going to tax the bejesus out of every other category because office property values are sinking. Look, they've got also this bid for New York City casino licenses,
right.
$500 million per license. Yeah. I mean, that's a hefty number. They're going to make up for a little bit of lost revenue with a $500 million one-time lump sum fee that they're going to charge for a license holder. They're going to charge it wherever and however they can charge it.
Do you think the casino option is going to move the needle significantly?
I do. I think that well, look, you've always heard me say that gambling and cannabis are the two biggest things that are going to be needle-moving industries and revenue sources for all of these states and cities, not just New York City. And it's crazy. I mean, the cannabis thing is hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars for every state that wants to adopt it, and most of them have. And likewise, the gambling is, you can't ignore it anymore. These cities and these towns and these states, they all need money. No one has any money. Historically, the only place you get money from is from the property owners. As I said, that's the single largest source of revenue for any municipality or government. Right. Is the property taxes. And if the property taxes shift by just a point or two or three, it's so much money that these cities are losing, they have to do something to make it up. Believe me and watch, you're probably seeing it already, but they're going to get it from every other part of the pie that they can get it. They're going to increase their sales tax. They're going to increase the commuter tax. They're going to increase property taxes on all the other asset classes. They're going to increase taxes on absolutely everything. They can't afford not to. It sucks. It's balancing the budget 101. They have to get the money from somewhere. But yeah, gambling and cannabis are going to be new sources of money. They're going to come into these cities and help them have some revenue sources to balance their budgets. 100%. I mean, it's nuts what's happening. Yeah. San Francisco, same thing. I mean, office properties are next to worthless in San Francisco. What's San Francisco going to do?
Yeah, San Francisco is a terrifying situation for multiple reasons, but that, we talked about the, you brought up the Surf City Hotel comparison, and just
it is the Surf City Hotel waiting to go up in flames.
Yeah,
San Francisco,
that's terrifying.
It's terrifying, and there's other places not far behind it. I think New York and Los Angeles are two examples.
Multifamily developers in the U.S. added over 400,000 apartments, according to CoStar. I don't know if that's accurate.
Yeah, there's a lot of new supply that happened this past year.
Yeah, so they're saying it's the highest total supply in 35 years.
And there's going to be more in 2023.
Yeah, so we hear all this, this talk of like, oh, it's so much supply, and yet at the same time, there's a supply shortage of housing and like
completely.
Everything. Yeah, so like what's going on there? What's the breakdown there of how are we building so much and yet not even moving the needle that
So
way?
let's just recap this. 400,000 new multifamily units came online in 2022.
Yeah.
The most in decades, right?
Yeah.
Still not enough. So you want to know what else was the most in 2022, more than any other recent time in decades? Towns everywhere adopting restrictive housing policies and rent control policies and affordable housing policies that do nothing but restrict the marketplace, prevent new construction from occurring, and limits forever the supply of affordable housing. So here's a great example, man. In 2022, we built more housing than we've ever built. It's still not enough. The policies are so restrictive. The environment is so restrictive. The tone out there is so egregious and acrimonious that no one knows how to do this right. You have to build more supply. We've done that. We've built more supply than ever before. It's still not enough. We have to continue to loosen and unrestrict these policies everywhere in all types of housing types, not just affordable, not just market rate, not just luxury, everything, single family, multifamily, attached, detached, tiny homes, medium homes, all of that stuff has to get built, and a lot of it everywhere. And once it gets built, we need to have pipeline for the next year and the next year and the next year, because it's not going to be enough. At our best, we can build maybe 1 million or 1,050,000 units of housing combined, all asset classes, in a year. Multifamily, we just said, built 400,000 units in 2022. I assume that we built probably 500,000 or 600,000 units of single family in that same time period. We can never build more than that. Our infrastructure just can't do it. We don't have enough labor force in the trades. We don't have enough land to build. We have to address zoning policy. We have to address lubricating the economic engines to let developers and contractors and investors take risk and get a fair return for taking the risk. All of that needs to happen, as much as building 400,000 plus new multifamily housing units. All of it.
Earlier this month, the Boston mayor, Michelle Wu, she proposed doubling the linkage fees.
I love her.
Yeah, do you? I was going to be surprised. So it was for life science projects, increasing the fee for all commercial real estate projects for like by 50%. It's crazy.
Linkage fees.
Yeah, so I was
going to double them.
Yeah, what is a linkage fee? How does it affect the success of a commercial real estate investment?
So here's exactly a great example of what we were just talking about. Restrictive policy. So linkage fees, first of all, I'll tell you what a linkage fee is, then I'll tell you about the definition and how the word came to be. So a linkage fee is a fee, random fee that the city just decides to charge you for the privilege of getting your permits and building. Just a number, just a fee, I'll tell you the reason. Here's the reason. So linkage fees exist because in a lot of our liberal governments and cities around the United States, there was a push to create a linkage between new construction and gentrification and unaffordability. So someone came up with a concept that there is a direct link when developers build something new, anything, that it has an adverse impact on the community in terms of housing affordability and gentrification and displacement and all of these things. And these cities want developers to pay a fine, a penalty, a fee. They want to be punitive about it because, hey, if you're going to build something and displace people and create the housing affordability problem and exacerbate the housing unaffordability problem, then, by God, you're going to have to pay for it. And it's a crazy concept to me. It's so, not only is it wrong on so many levels, it's wrong conceptually, it's wrong economically. I mean, there's ways to deal with things, but to say, no, if you're going to build here, you're going to have to pay a penalty fee. I mean, that's what it is. It's a penalty. I mean, this is exactly what I'm talking about. These cities need to encourage, motivate, invite, lubricate the economics of investment, critical investment in infrastructure, in housing, all these different housing types, property types. Cities everywhere have crumbling infrastructure, crumbling buildings. They want updated, safe, clean, affordable housing. You have to build it. You can't regulate your way to affordable housing. You have to create it. You have to increase the supply in order to stabilize housing prices or put downward pressure on housing prices. You have to increase the supply. You can't regulate. You can't charge fees. And they charge these fees, George, because they justify it by saying, well, we're going to have a fund. And with all the fees that you developers and investors pay into this fund, these linkage fees, we're going to have a bunch of money and we're going to create the affordable housing solution with this money. They don't do it. They don't know how. We've talked about how California builds affordable housing for $600,000 per unit. I mean, it's bananas. If you want problems solved, if you want progress, if you want success, if you want to achieve goals and address problems and issues, you have to look at the private sector because they know how to do it. I mean, the public sector is so constrained by ass backwards thinking, by cover your ass politics, by political correctness, by pandering to voter constituency. I mean, that's what you get in the public sector. In the private sector, you get, give me the best value for my dollar, give me the best solution in the quickest amount of time, and don't give me any headaches, because if you do, I'm going to fire you and I'm going to get someone else. But you can't do that in the public sector. I mean, it's appropriate for our discussion today because you're asking me what are these cities going to do when their budgets shrink due to the declining property values? This is what they're doing. They're increasing the linkage fees. I mean, they say it's going to be for affordable housing development, but it's not. It's just going to help them balance their budget because there's language in the city and state doctrines that allow the mayors and governors to reach into these linkage fee fund accounts and pull out money and use it at their discretion if they want to. I mean, it's absolutely heinous. It's complete bullshit. It's one rung on the ladder down from being a flat earther. These people that think that they're going to charge linkage fees because there's a link to housing unaffordability when you get a building permit. And, like all of this divisive, screwed up thinking. That's what it is. It's divisive. It's screwed up. It's completely incorrect. Unfortunately, this type of messaging and thinking and governing comes from similar types of places. We see it on the coasts. We see it in Illinois. Even our president said we have to address a housing supply shortage. We have to create more housing. The cities are like, oh, I don't know how to do that. So here's what I'm going to do. I've got 40% of my voters are renters. So we're just going to put in rent controls and put in affordable housing policies that don't actually get anything built, but we have them on the books and we can celebrate when they hit the books and our voter constituency will see that and they'll vote for me again. Now, that's what it is. It's completely sad. It's extortion. If any private citizen tried to behave the same way, they'd be arrested. But when governments do it, they say, oh, it's a linkage fee. It's absurd. And it's a certain type of government and a certain type of person that thinks this way. And it's complete. All it does is divide us, exacerbate the problems. It creates zero solutions. It puts more money in the hands of people who are incompetent, don't have the skills or training to deploy it and spend it. And it doesn't create one unit of affordable housing. George, find me a town or a city that's collected lots of linkage fees and has deployed those linkage fees into building more housing. Find me one. I'm not aware of one, but find me one. It's an honest request. Find me one.
All right, cool. I'll make that my mission. We get questions from followers concerning all different kinds of asset types. One that keeps coming up is hotel investments. What are the most critical metrics when considering a hotel deal? How should we be thinking about that?
It's funny because I was on an investor call last week where we were looking at a hotel deal and the person pitching the deal didn't really have her numbers together. And rule number one when you pitch anybody anything is know your numbers. Look, every industry, every investment asset class, every investment type has a set of metrics which are standard, which are fundamental, and which are paramount to analyzing the investment opportunity and knowing if it's a good deal relative to everything else that's out there. So with the hotel industry, you've got total available rooms. I mean, I'm going to go through these quickly because people can look them up, but total available rooms is a big one. The ADR, the average daily rate, the RevPAR, which is the revenue per available room. Those are the three biggest ones right there. And then you get into the average occupancy rate, and you get into GOPPAR, which is gross operating profit per available room. You've got market penetration index, the MPI. You've got the average rate index, the ARI. You've got revenue generation index, or the RGI. So these are all things that hotel industry insiders use to compare multiple properties within their portfolio. They want to know who's outperforming, who's underperforming. Market cost per booking, the MCPB. You've got the sentiment score. Go to TripAdvisor. TripAdvisor is like a base. It's people use it. You can get the walking score in multifamily. You can get the sentiment score on TripAdvisor. It's a metric that'll tell you what the sentiment is about the asset. The DRR, the direct revenue ratio. These are all part of the conversation when buyers and sellers of hotels are at the table. The website conversion rate. I mean, today, all of the bookings for hotels come through at the internet. There's no more revenue sector that is driven by like travel agents. And I mean, it's like a very tiny portion of the remaining pie. Segmentation, TrevPAR. So these are all things that are on the table when looking at a hotel investment. Guys, if you're going to think about owning and operating a hotel or investing with someone who is an owner and operator of a hotel, ask these questions. Listen to this podcast again. Take notes on these metrics that I just told you about. Learn what they are. Educate yourself, because this is what the big guys do. And if you want a seat at the table, you have to speak the language. This is the language.
I'm hearing pretty much every day about Chat GDP. And I wanted to know
every day.
Yeah,
it's the new thing at every conversation, every bar, every dinner table, every bus ride, every phone call.
Yeah. So what's top of mind for you when it comes to AI and I guess your industry or just the industry in general?
I'm new to this whole thing. I haven't actually played with it myself yet, but I hear it's pretty robust. And this is only like the early innings, right? So imagine 5 or 10 years out. And I'm fascinated with this whole AI thing. And I sent you a few memes and videos that I saw on my feed the past couple of days where you pull into a gas station and there's a robotic arm that senses where your fill tank is and opens up your tank door and pulls out the gas nozzle and fills you up. It doesn't require human labor. So that was an interesting one. And then there was several more like robots and robotic pets and assistants. And
it was like a robotic dog that China's developing. And,
it's incredible. And they're saying robotic dogs, but all you have to do is make the arms and legs like a foot longer each, and then you've got a robotic person. The sky's the limit once they figure all that out. But Chat GPT, you're asking about the impact on business and industry. So listen, man, whether it's chat or whether it's AI, robotics, or anything else in between, for every advancement that these technologies make, it's going to mean the loss of hundreds of thousands or millions of jobs. Now, those jobs are going to shift. They're not just going to disappear, but there's going to be this new industry that's emerging that requires labor. Right. So we're going to go from being replaced by AI and robots to then working for the companies that build the AI and robots. I saw an interesting post from a housing economist. Just give me a second while I pull it up.
Yeah, absolutely.
So this was a guy named Jay Parsons, who we've spoken about here on the show before. And he said he had a conversation. I'm just going to read this to you because I found it to be amazing, right? I mean, self-serving, but amazing. I had a conversation with Chat GPT about whether rent control is good policy for cities needing affordable housing. Initially, Chat GPT tried to avoid taking sides. Then I asked, which view is better and supported by research and data? And then it came down hard on one side. So apparently the AI bot came back with all of the research and data that supports why rent control policies are not good for cities that adopt them. And it listed all the reasons on and on and on and on. And so funny because this was a computer program that's not motivated politically. This isn't a person that's been messaged to their whole lives about, how to vote or how to think, right? This is an AI bot, and it just gives you the facts, completely free from influence or political agenda. And it said, without a doubt, that rent control policies don't work. They're detrimental to the economies of cities that adopt them. And you have to build more housing supply. Jesus, George, an expensive AI robot just said what cheap Uncle Peter has been saying for forever. Like, we don't need AI here. It's just repeating what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But it's an amazing thing, and this technology is going to really move the needles. We were talking about cannabis and gambling moving the needles economically for cities. The AI is really going to move the needle for our society as a whole, not just for a few cities here and there, but for society in the aggregate. It's going to completely change everything. In 10 years, the world is not going to look anything like the way it looks today because all of these jobs are going to shift. Technology economies are going to advance. These AI economies are going to advance. And we're going to be dealing with this in every aspect of our life.
Yeah. I hear a lot of brokers like using it for listings and like all this kind of
well, brokers watch out because at some point you're just not going to be needed. So if you're a broker, so remember we talked about how 10% of the brokers sell 90% of the real estate in every town and every market. Yeah. If you're part of the 90% of the brokers that sell 10% of the real estate, you're going to be replaced by AI. Period. End of discussion. So you better watch out.
And I think that's the case with almost every job. Yeah, I think that
every job.
Yeah, all jobs you have to kind of center in on what is the human component or the unique thing that you are bringing to the table that is not replaceable because it's increasingly becoming more difficult to do that.
George, AI is going to replace us all. And when we all whine and complain and bitch and moan to elected officials, they're not going to know what to do. So what they're going to do is regulate it. They're going to regulate how many jobs someone can terminate if you're the owner of a company. If you make an investment in AI, they're going to tell you how many people you can terminate because they don't want to lose the jobs. So now you're going to be forced to choose. Do I invest in my business in AI technology, which will enable me to bring my product or service to market more effectively, and it's better for the consumer? Or do I not invest in AI because the rules and regulations and laws require that I don't terminate employment? I mean, you're going to have to make those kinds of decisions. It's going to disrupt every market, every type of industry, and it's exciting and scary. Yeah, I mean, it's really going to be a threat, a major threat of sorts to our society because we need jobs, we need to earn wages and income, and we need to make money. And we talk about how the middle class gets squeezed. You want to know who's going to get taken to the cleaners when AI starts to proliferate? The middle class. Yeah. It's all of their jobs that are going to go away in favor of computer programs and robots. Yeah. Well, better start planning for it now.
Well, as you said, everything's an opportunity. It's like this is the time to start looking for the opportunities that are going to arise because otherwise then you're just reacting rather than anticipating.
And then we're really going to have a housing affordability issue. And not because we still need more supply, which we will still need more supply, but because people aren't going to be making money because they don't have jobs.
Yeah, that should be interesting. All right, well, that's what I got today. We did talk last week or the last time we filmed about stories from the closing table. I don't know if you wanted to touch on that at all before.
Oh, you want another closing story?
Yeah.
Let's see. So many come to mind. What's the one? Oh, you know what? I remember the one I shared with you before. It was about my friend Gisela, who was in the basement with her sweatpants around her ankles going to the bathroom. Yes. People saw that and they came up to me. They're like, oh my God, I saw that story about how that was a crazy one. But okay. So another one is get to the closing table. Everyone's there. Now, when you go to a closing table, I expect, here's the normal protocol. I walk in, I got my pen. I'm right-handed, so I sign with my right hand. Yeah. I grab the signed paper with my left, and I flip it, and I move it to my left. Yeah. So it's a conveyor belt. It's a river of documents. I know the deal. I have a stack of documents this high. I have to sign hundreds and hundreds of things. I have to get notarized, this whole thing. So we set up a conveyor belt. The notary's sitting on my left. The title closer's sitting on her left. And we just funnel documents. So I go into this closing. I'm ready to start signing. They say, whoa, don't sign. I said, oh, okay, what's going on? Yeah. My client wants, and this is the seller, I'm the buyer. My client wants another $850,000. Now I'm already there. I've got insurance approved, paid for. I've got my loan underwritten, committed, approved. The bank's ready to fund. The title company, the night before, circulated the settlement statement with all the numbers. Everybody signed off on them. But we get to and there's a contract, right? So
that's crazy.
So we get to the closing table, and this lawyer says, "My client, the seller, wants another $850,000. Take it or leave it." So I'm sitting there. There's like 10 people in the room. His client isn't there. Just the lawyer's there for the seller, but the seller's not there. So you have two choices at that point. You either pay the $850,000, which no one in their right mind would do, or you look them square in the eye and you say, okay, here's the deal. We have a contract for you to perform at a certain price. If you're not going to perform, I'm going to get up and walk out. I'm going to sue you for specific performance. Specific performance is a bit of language that's in every contract for purchase and sale of real estate, or it should be in every contract for purchase and sale of real estate, which says that if you change your mind, you can't, I'm just going to sue you to perform according to what the contract says, specific performance. You have to perform specifically to what we agreed to. Yeah. Otherwise, what good is the contract? Without this language, George, requiring specific performance, what good is a contract? Why have a contract? If it can be thrown away and walked away from, and it's not binding and it doesn't create an obligation for the parties to perform. Why even have a contract? So there was a contract in place. I showed up ready to close, started signing documents, and I was told I had to pay another $850,000. I said, I'm going to sue you for specific performance. Take that or leave that. And I got up and left. And as I was in my car, my lawyer called me and said, we just got the call. They want us to come back in. So we went back in and we signed documents. But and it's not like puffing out your chest, and it's not like a show of power or force or anything like weird like that. It's just like, look, I spent money to get to the table here. I spent money to pay lawyers and title companies to bring us this far. So did you. And not for nothing, we have a contract, a binding contract where the terms are laid out. Couldn't be more clear. We both agreed to them. We both had counsel review our decisions and review the documents. Everybody's here ready to close, and you're now hijacking me for another $850,000. Are you crazy? Because it's not going to happen. Yeah. So you have to have the specific performance language in every purchase and sale agreement, because otherwise you've just got a nothing contract. And you have to know how and when to pull that card out of your pocket and use it. I mean, these people thought they were going to get over on us with a last-minute 11th hour request for more money that has nothing to do with the price of tea in China. It was just extortion. George, it's crazy. You never know what you're going to get when you get to the closing table. I always appreciate when it goes smoothly. I always appreciate when my counterparts do what they say and say what they're going to do, because you know what? I do what I say, and I say what I do. Yeah. And all I'm asking for is for reciprocity with that. So I'm going to show up. I'm going to spend money on third-party reports. I'm going to do my due diligence. That costs money. I'm going to jump through hoops with a lender. I'm going to pay fees and costs to the lender to close the title. All this stuff I'm going to do. But you better perform when I get to the closing table, because if not, I'm suing you for specific performance, and I'm going to get your building anyway, and you're going to pay my legal fees, and I'm going to make your life miserable. So don't be an extortionist with me. Just be a good guy and close on the deal that we already have a signed contract for. So that was the moral of that story.
Yeah, take note, people. All right, well, that's what I got today, Peter. Anything you want to touch on before we head out?
I don't. You've made me so happy, George. Thank you.
You make me happy too, Peter. Thanks so much. I'll see you next time.